Hello and welcome to our webinar, Fall and Winter Picture Books. I'm Maggie Reagan, Senior Editor for Books for Youth at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by copying the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble accessing these materials, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a button for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we will pass along all other questions to today's panelists so that they can follow up with you after the webinar. Last but not least, Booklist now offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon on the toolbar mentioned before. From there, you can select show or hide subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting subtitle settings. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from Carolina Schwartz, Publisher Strategist at Clavis Publishing, Colette Perry, Market Associate at Charlesbridge Publishing, Evan Monday, Publicity Manager at Tundra Book Group, Ellen Myrick, President and Chief Marketer at Publisher Spotlight, and Adrienne Weintraub, Executive Director of School and Library Marketing at Random House Children's Books. First up, we'll hear from Carolina Schwartz. Carolina is a publisher strategist with close to 20 years of experience in marketing, sales, and content development. She has worked with publishers of different sizes in Europe, Latin America, Canada, and the US, developing systems that generate ongoing demand for their titles and reduce returns. She currently runs the sales and marketing efforts for Clavis Publishing in the US, among other clients. Take it away, Carolina.
Thank you, Maggie. It's great to be here and welcome to this picture book webinar. Taylor, if you can go to the next slide, I want to introduce you first to Clavis Publishing. Clavis is an independent global leader in children's publishing, publishing for over 40 years now, based in Belgium, here in the US. We publish over 70 fiction and nonfiction titles every year from children ages 0 to 12, and we have started doing some Spanish language titles. So every season we have a select number of titles that are published simultaneously in English and in Spanish. Clavis is a diverse list and global talent, hails from Europe, the Americas, and other parts of the world. Clavis has a very robust toddler catalog and loads of award-winning picture books. Next. Our new releases for the fall are, first one in the list, if you can go to the next one, Taylor, please, thank you. The first title in the list is Beekeepers and What They Do. This is a new title in the Profession series, colorful nonfiction for kids to learn about different careers. In this one in particular, next slide, the beekeeper knows a lot about bees, from constructing hives, taking care of them, and collecting honey. With bright colors and simple illustrations and text, this nonfiction book shows the reader the work beekeepers do in detail, including the tools they use and clothes they wear. It also presents a window into their daily job, how they care for the bees and beehives and collect honey, among other things. Next slide. This is a great title, sorry, one back there. This is a great title to stress the importance of bees and the role they play in nature. It's perfect for bee lovers, flower lovers, and those interested in life cycles. Next up is Just For You. In this new title in the Piggy series, after Little Book of Kindness and Little Book of Caring, Piggy, next slide. Piggy gives balls of wool to his friends to make some warm sweaters. They all go together playing in the snow, but Piggy counts them wrong and there's no wool left for himself. Luckily, his friends come to the rescue. Next slide. This title is from award-winning and international best-selling author Francesca Pirone, and this series, the Piggy series, has been translated into 16 languages already. As you can see, it has colorful, cheerful illustrations with short text that make this a pleasant and easy to follow read with overarching themes of generosity, empathy, and community building. Next up is Daisy's Bedtime by Diane Bates and illustrator Devlin Lynch. Devlin is a biracial Australian illustrator, half white, half Filipino, who felt very out of place growing up, and now she is devoted to presenting inclusive characters in all of her illustrations. This is a familiar bedtime story about a girl who can't sleep, and you can see it in the next slide. Not even when mom and dad try to do everything they can to help her. Daisy and her parents do the bedtime dance, meaning Daisy tries to get a glass of water. She asks for another story to read, and this makes a perfect title for bedtime and to establish bedtime routines. One more slide. This title is also available in Spanish. Noah and His Wagon is actually coming out today. This is a story about Paloma, who is very lonely after her best friend has moved away. Then she meets Noah, and we can see it in the next slide. She meets Noah, and together they go on a stroll around the neighborhood with Noah's wagon. In the course of the afternoon, she learns that her neighborhood can be a very nice place to meet people and feel very much at home and not lonely. This is a great title that presents diversity in an understated way and includes the main themes of friendship, building community, generosity, and compassion. And you can go over to the next slide. This title also lends itself as a conversation starter to talk about cultural differences and understanding. Next up, we have Little Tractor and the Christmas Tree. This is part of the Little Tractor series after Little Tractor is Brave, and you can see it there on the slide. If you can go to the next one. This year, it's Little Tractor's turn to pick up the tree for Christmas. He chooses a beautiful round fir that's not too big and not too small. It's the perfect tree, but there is a small detail. The tree does not want to be a Christmas tree. So what do you do when the Christmas tree does not want to be a Christmas tree? They happily come to a compromise. The fir happily agrees to become a Christmas tree, and the friends happily agree to plant it back in its spot after the festivities end. This is a very versatile Christmas title that also opens up the conversation about respect, compromise, and keeping one's word. One more slide. Lastly, this title has an environmental message as the Christmas tree is replanted. Next up, we have Pip's book from award-winning and international best-selling author Guido van Genetjen. Pip the bird is trying to fit his very long friend Timothy van der Long into this book. You can go over to the next slide. Fun ensures as he tries his best to fit this very long friend page after page. The book ends as they finally accomplish the mission and a large elephant feet stomps its way into the picture. It has a fold-out page that helps fit Timothy and announces the entrance of Ellie, the elephant's food. One more slide. This is a perfect storytime read-aloud book, and where anticipation and wit mounts page after page. Overarching themes include teamwork, friendship, and not giving up. It's a funny, interactive story for lovers of birds, dogs, elephants, and animals in general. And it's also perfect for explaining depth and different angles. Next up, we have Kiki's Pacifier. In this simple and effective story from international best-selling and SLJ starred author Esther Vandenberg, Kiki wonders if teeth are really important and whether we should take care of them. And as you can see in the next slide, she visits all her friends to find out what they can actually do with their teeth, since none of them are using pacifiers anymore. She quickly learns teeth are actually very important, and this is just the right time to drop the pacifier. Next up, this bright color story with a lovable set of characters is a great tool to talk about dental hygiene, daily activities, and waning pacifier use. And last one, we have Winter Fun. In this interactive story from international best-selling author and illustrator and past Kirkus Best Book creator Anita Petervorsch, Fox, Mouse, Raccoon, and Owl are playing in the snow. They want to make a snowman on top of the hill, for which the readers need help as they, if you go to the next slide, need to tilt it, shake it, and turn the page of the book, among other things. And last slide. It is the perfect title to present the seasons and to go over winter activities and playing in the snow. Cheerful characters and vibrant colors add to this engaging title, which can help spark creativity and imagination. And lastly, you have my contact information there and Clavis' contact information, their website. For any questions that you have, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the presentations.
Thank you so much, Carolina, for sharing all of that with us. Next up, we have Colette Perry. Colette has been a marketing associate at Charlesbridge Publishing for 4 years. She was born and raised in Portland, Oregon, and she holds a bachelor degree in communications and music from Simmons University. She lives in Boston with 3 friends and a very spoiled leopard gecko. Thanks for being here today, Colette.
Thank you, Maggie, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Charlesbridge has got a jam-packed fall full of exciting titles, and I will also be giving you a sneak peek at what's coming in January of 2023. Let's kick it off with our fan favorite storytelling math series, celebrating math, diversity, and the power of story. We are thrilled to be working again with Dr. Janae Brown-Wood on Too Small Tyson. Tyson is the youngest and the smallest of his 6 brothers. He wants to help, but his brothers keep telling him, "Don't worry, little man, we've got this." When their pet gerbil Swish goes missing, Tyson won't give up looking for him, and eventually he finds him. But Swish is stuck under the bed, too far back for anyone to pick him up. Even his gerbil tubes aren't long enough to reach. Then Tyson notices that one medium tube is half as long as the longest tube. A little patience, some proportional reasoning, and Swish's favorite treat all come together in the perfect rescue operation. This bright celebration of Black brotherhood proves that you don't have to be big to have big ideas or to save the day. We're also looking forward to 2 new titles in our new Chicken Soup for the Soul children's series, imparting good values through heartwarming and humorous stories. Stuck, Help Please, and Lucas's Tricky Day. For the littlest listeners, Stuck, Help Please introduces the foundations of problem solving and emotional regulation. Little Ferret is having a frustrating day at the playground. A tricky zipper, a sticky slide, a very scary bridge. He wants to do it himself, but he keeps getting stuck. Grandma Ferret gently reminds him to take a deep breath, calm down, and try again. He can do it, and he can even help others too. For the early grade school set, Rajani LaRocca's Lucas's Tricky Day offers a gentle, nuanced take on positivity. Lucas is the jokester in his squad of friends. He's always sunny and usually ready with a funny quip or silly joke. His friends are used to Lucas being the life of the party, and the whole apartment building relies on his good humor. But today, he's the one who needs cheering up. Both Stuck and Lucas's Tricky Day will join our other Chicken Soup for the Soul children's titles on October 25th. Now, you may have noticed this is a big series month for us, and I am rounding off the last of our series titles with 2 new contributions to the Leo Can series, Leo Rise and Shine and Leo Sleep Tight. Fans of the Lola Reed series will love to follow along with her little brother Leo's daily routines and milestones. Leo Rise and Shine is a bouncy morning wake-up full of delightful sensory details, sparkly sunlight, crunchy cereal, and, of course, yellow jellies for happy feet. Leo's mommy and daddy delight in getting him ready for a big day, helping him get dressed from head to toe. Leo Sleep Tight is the perfect polar opposite, sweet and soothing, showing Leo relax with each of his 5 senses. Sweet smells, soft clothes, and a dim, quiet room all help Leo slow down and get ready for bedtime. At last, Leo is ready to curl up with mommy and sail off into sweet dreams. Leo Rise and Shine and Leo Sleep Tight are ideal storytime reads for little listeners. Now, I told you those were the last of our series titles, and that's technically not a lie, but fans of Sumo Kitty will probably recognize David Bedricki's signature art and laugh-out-loud storytelling in the stunning sequel, Sumo Puppy. In the first book, a stray kitty learned to train like a sumo wrestler and found a job as a mouser for the sumo champion. Now, Sumo Kitty has taken on an apprentice. But can Chanko-chan really learn the feline arts? When the manager brings home a puppy, Sumo Kitty tries his best to train her to catch mice, but this rambunctious newcomer doesn't seem cut out for the job. She drools, she snores, and she never stops barking. Can she find a place in the Sumo Heya and in Sumo Kitty's heart? Sumo Puppy's adventures will capture hearts and encourage youngsters to celebrate their own unique skills. Our next title is one of my personal favorites of the year, Forever Cousins by Laurel Goodluck, illustrated by Jonathan Nelson. Kara and Amanda are best friend cousins. When Kara's family leaves the city to move back to the res, the girls are heartbroken. And when the family reunion rolls around, each is stricken with sudden shyness. Did she miss me? Are we still best friends? Of course, once the ice is broken, it's like no time has passed at all. At the end of the reunion, the girls swap their dolls and promise that they will be forever cousins. This book really rings true to me as someone who grew up with lots of cousins who lived far away. That cousin relationship is incredibly special, and you just don't see a lot of it in the picture book market. This is a touching story that highlights the ongoing impact of the Indian Relocation Act of the 1950s, while reminding readers that the power of love and family can bridge any distance. Let's take a look at this month's nonfiction titles, starting with The Penguin of Ile Grande by Shannon Earle, illustrated by Renato Alarzao, another touching tribute to connections across great distances. This is the real story of Seo Joao and Dindim the penguin. When Dindim washed up on the beach covered in oil, Seo Joao took him home, cleaned him up, and nursed him back to health. The two became such good friends that when Dindim was fully recovered, he refused to leave. For the next 7 years, Dindim lived with his human friend for 8 months of the year, leaving for 4 months after his annual molting. This inspiring true account of an unlikely friendship is sure to win the hearts of nature, travel, and animal lovers alike. For something a little closer to home, try Border Crossings by Sneed B. Collard III, illustrated by Howard Gray. For millennia, humans and animals have moved freely across the rich habitats along what is now the US-Mexico border, finding food, shelter, and companionship. As 2 endangered ocelots attempt to cross the border today, they face obstacles that drive home the catastrophic effects of the border wall and the many benefits of keeping the border barrier free. Howard Gray's art really shines in this stunning nonfiction book, celebrating the incredible natural beauty of the border ecosystem and poignantly illustrating the struggles faced by animals whose feeding, mating, and migration cycles are affected by the wall. Powerful storytelling introduces young readers to the wildlife that thrives along the border and urges budding nature buffs to value and protect our environment. Next up is The Unknown Soldier by Jess Brallier, illustrated by Jamie Peterson. Jack is so excited to see Washington, D.C. on a family vacation. They see museums and famous buildings and even take a boat ride on the river. But on the last day, his family goes to see something completely different, a cemetery. Jack finds it boring, but as they watch the guard patrolling the tomb of the unknown soldier, his perspective shifts. He learns about the monument, the sentinels, and why it is they keep watch, and develops a newfound respect for those who serve. Gorgeous watercolor illustrations by Jamie Peterson bring the nation's capital to life. Art also takes center stage in Where Do Big Creatures Sleep at Night by Steve Simmons, illustrated by Ruth Harper. This stunning sequel to Where Do Creatures Sleep at Night walks children through the bedtime habits of fan favorite megafauna. Though many of these creatures are found in Africa, this is a world tour of the biggest, baddest bedtimes in the animal kingdom, emphasizing sweet and cuddly images of animal babies and their parents. Ruth Harper's art is genuinely gorgeous, balancing realistic details with dreamy watercolors to intrigue and delight. From gorillas to elephants and ostriches to rhinos, plus anacondas and hippos and more, this rhyming book shows kids where big animals bed down in the wild. Young animal lovers will also adore Whose Egg Is That by Darren Lundy, illustrated by Kelsey Oside. This Guess Who sequel to Whose Footprint Is That and Whose Poop Is That explores the colorful world of animal eggs. Written by a mammalogist at the Smithsonian, this clever preschool page-turner pairs 7 eggs with information about the animal's survival mechanisms, asking kids to guess which animal laid which egg. Whose Egg Is That reveals the animals, ranging from penguins to platypuses, in their own habitats. There might even be an egg from a creature who lived a very long time ago. Fans of Darren Lundy's funny and irreverent Whose Footprint Is That and Whose Poop Is That will be delighted by this new title. Last, but certainly not least, we're excited to be working again with visual learning expert Stuart Murphy on Show and Tell, Great Graphs and Smart Charts. This fantastic guide to infographics is also the perfect answer to the math student's constant question, when will I ever use this in real life? Packed with projects that answer real questions like, what's the best meal in the school cafeteria? Or who burps the most in my family? Stuart walks kids through the steps of data collection and presentation. Learn the difference between line graphs, bar graphs, pie charts, and pictographs, and tie together each project with an eye-catching infographic. Whether it's the first introduction or an aid to homework and review, this book prepares today's visually savvy children to succeed in school and life by taking a critical eye to the world around them. I think we can skip over the next slide. Thank you for listening, and please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. My colleague Donna Spurlock, Director of Marketing, can be reached at dspurlock@charlesbridge.com. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Colette. We'll now hear from Evan Monday. Evan is the publicity manager for Tundra Book Group. Prior to his work with Tundra, he was director of the Word on the Street Book Festival in Toronto and publicist at Coach House Books. He is also the author and illustrator of a series of novels for young readers, The Dead Kid Detective Agency, published by ECW Press. He lives in Toronto with his family and two photogenic cats, Remington and Gustav. Take it away, Evan.
Hello, and thanks for being here. As was mentioned, we are Tundra Books, situated in Canada, but we sell books across North America. But we've got 16 picture books to talk about and only 11 minutes to do it, which comes out to 41 seconds per book. So let's get right into it. All books are based on true stories on some level, but we're going to start with some based more in fact than most. Ones that tell stories about true life historical figures. For young writers and mystery lovers, we have Arthur Who Wrote Sherlock by Linda Bailey and Isabel Follett. Bailey is the author of the acclaimed picture book biography, Mary Who Wrote Frankenstein. She's returned with a picture book about the incredible life of Arthur Conan Doyle. He was a doctor, an adventurer, a tireless campaigner for justice, and of course, creator of the world's greatest detective. After years of struggle as a writer, Arthur finally found success, fame, and wealth with a series of mysteries starring a genius detective, Sherlock Holmes. But when Sherlock's popularity becomes too much, will he really throw his greatest creation off a cliff? Victorian era spoiler alert, he does. Any kid with an interest in writing mysteries will love this book that Booklist calls a lively, memorable biography. But if your young reader is more musical than mysterious, I guess, they'll need to read Star, the Bird Who Inspired Mozart by Mariah Messier and Matt Stevens. This charming picture book is based on the true story of how Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, one of the world's most remarkable musicians and composers, was inspired by one of the world's most unremarkable birds, a starling. I hope there are no starlings listening right now. This is a colorful and playful introduction to the great composer. Who knew that a starling inspired some of Mozart's most whimsical music? He even had a funeral for Star, something sadly excised from the major motion picture Amadeus. Now we move from the realm of facts to the realm of feelings, with some picture books that encourage readers to listen to themselves. We can all learn a few lessons from the clouds in Keo McClear and Natalie Dion's Kumo the Bashful Cloud. Keo is the author of Virginia Woolf, and It Began with a Page. And now she's paired with Natalie Dion for this uplifting journey of a cloud, or Kumo in Japanese, who overcomes her shyness and discovers the rewards of feeling seen, with a little help from some fellow clouds and a young daydreamer and cloud watcher. Inspired by the author's own struggles with shyness and self-doubt, as school library journal notes, this is a read aloud to help children understand their own reticence about being seen and shows them many ways they can be present as individuals or part of a group. That's great for feeling seen, but what about being heard? Little Echo, the debut picture book from Al Roden, has you covered for audio. Little Echo is an animal who lives alone in a cave. She hides away, only echoing the noises around her. But Little Echo isn't just shy, she's also lonely. When Max comes to the cave one day in search of treasure, Little Echo starts to discover that maybe she has a voice of her own. The personification of an echo in a cave is a pretty clever way to present the book's messages about loneliness, cooperation, and friendship. Kirkus called it a warm subterranean friendship tale, and who doesn't love those? What's the last classic one of those we had? Wind in the Willows, or Badger Subterranean, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Young readers can learn about themselves by looking inward, but can also learn about the self by looking outside to nature. Enter The Boy and the Mountain by Mario Bellini and illustrated by Mariana Capo. A young aspiring artist sets off to draw the mountain that he can see from his house. Unhappy with the view from his house, he decides to move closer and closer, gathering animal companions on his hike. Not just a whimsical ode to hiking, but a thoughtful exploration of art and the creative process. This is a picture book that should inspire young readers and old to stop and take the time to appreciate the world around them. As SLJ put it, it's a story about the depth of what a beautiful place can provide beyond its beauty. And the Tundra Time activity sheet encourages that artistic impulse, as you can see here. Sometimes listening to yourself involves having a good cry, and there's a book for that too. If You Cry Like a Fountain by Nomi Vola is a book valorizing tears. The book kicks off with an attempt by a narrator to cheer up a sad-looking worm that ends up making the worm cry. So the narrator tries to make the worm feel better by listing the many ways tears can be used productively. You can collect those tears in a pot, turn on the stove and throw in some pasta, or collect your tears in a bucket and add some cleaner, and you can clean your floors while you weep. This is a very funny way to talk to young readers about recognizing and respecting feelings. It's also the first book I read to my 3-year-old to elicit a spontaneous laugh. And our most explicit picture book about listening to yourself, Myself, Yourself, the latest picture book from Esme Shapiro. This is a delightful picture book explicitly about self-esteem and individuality. Readers follow along with lovable forest creatures, largely turnip or mushroom-based, as they discover what is a self and what makes each of us unique. From the way you button your coat to the way you tap your toes, there's so many reasons to love yourself and so many reasons to be loved. Esme Shapiro, the author of Uko and Carol and the Pickled Toad, is a singular talent with a quirky sensibility all her own. And this book encourages the youngest readers to get to know and be kind to their wonderful selves and the equally wonderful selves around them. Each question and simple sentence is there to encourage dialogue and self-discovery from young readers, says Kirkus, and the Tundra Time activity sheet allows kids to make their own plant hats and colorful mushrooms. Now we segue from turnips and living vegetables to the world of animals, with books for the animal lovers amongst us. Anyone who has a cat knows it's at best a love-hate relationship, and that's vividly and amusingly depicted in How to Teach Your Cat a Trick by Nicola Winstanley and Zoe C. A few years ago, Winstanley wrote How to Give Your Cat a Bath in 5 Easy Steps. Now Winstanley is back with another impossible task. This is a spoof on an instruction manual that features an increasingly bewildered kid, a nonchalant cat, a very good dog, and a know-it-all narrator who doesn't really know much at all. How do you teach a cat a trick? As this review notes, it's a funny book that is a great read aloud that should appeal equally to dog and cat lovers. Then there's Night Lunch, written by Eric Fan of the Fan Brothers, illustrated by Dina Seiferling, a book for animal lovers and food lovers. Noses sniff the air as mouthwatering smells waft down city streets, luring growling bellies to the night owl. Inside this elegant horse-drawn establishment, a feathery owl works the grill, serving up tasty dishes for shift workers and opera goers alike. Mouse, a poor street sweeper, watches the line of customers, hopeful that someone will drop a morsel of food, but Owl's cooking is far too delicious for that. As the evening service ends, weary Owl spots trembling Mouse. Has he found his own night lunch, or will he invite the small sweeper inside for a midnight feast for two? Empathy, kindness, and generosity are the key themes of this animal story, which was inspired by the historical phenomenon of Victorian launch carts. This is a beautifully illustrated story, great for bedtime, and with a Tundra Time activity sheet that encourages kids to imagine their own ideal nighttime feasts. Owls and mice get me thinking of fables, which means it's time to talk about a few fractured fairy tales, and one's filled with science. Professor Goose Debunks Goldilocks and the Three Bears is the first in a new series by the author of classic character Franklin the Turtle, Paulette Bourgeois, and illustrated by Alice G. Griffiths. These are skeptical and STEM-filled fairy tales. Professor Goose fact-checks some classic fairy tales and shares the science behind these flawed stories. Goose's debunkings start off with Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and boy, is there a lot of misinformation in that story. For instance, bears don't live in cottages, they prefer dens, and the smallest bowl of porridge wouldn't be just right, it would have been the coldest. Don't fable writers understand thermodynamics? Jammed with jokes and silly illustrations, the book entertains while it introduces kids to basic scientific laws. And at the back of the book, readers will even find some instructions on how to engineer a chair for a teddy bear. And our activity sheet encourages kids to make their own knock before entering sign, just like the one Goldilocks rudely ignores. Too Many Pigs and One Big Bad Wolf by David Kelly and Mariana Balducci similarly has STEM connections with an emphasis on the M for math. In this book, an unseen reader goes head to head with the Big Bad Wolf in retellings of the Three Little Pigs. But each story the reader is told ends up way too short, and always with the little pigs getting rapidly eaten. The Big Bad Wolf, after all, wants to skip ahead to the eating, but no matter how many pigs the wolf adds or how fantastic the story becomes, the reader is unsatisfied. Along the way, young readers learn a bit about counting, aided by Balducci's mixed media work that uses an abacus as the basis for the pig paintings. In its start review, Kirkus called it a clever take on metafiction that will appeal to both budding mathematicians and writers. but it's also a very funny book with opportunities for interactivity that will have young fans squealing with delight. Speaking of squeals, it's time for a little fun with sounds. And what does Little Crocodile Say at the Park with Ava Montanari has that. It's the follow-up to the highly acclaimed What Does Little Crocodile Say, a book for the youngest readers that serves as an appealing read aloud at home or school. A little crocodile explores a day at the park with Grandma and Grandpa in this colorful, noisy book filled with sounds and new experiences, some wonderful, some not, all sure to delight toddlers. Merry-go-rounds go wee, dandelions go pff, pigeons go flap, flap. Imagine the guy from Police Academy movies doing this part. The simplicity of the book's text and art make for a wonderfully noisy read aloud. And check out the coloring sheets we have available and stay tuned for future editions like What Does Little Crocodile Say at the Beach and What Does Crocodile Say at the Birthday Party? Dandelions go pff, but baby squeaks. Do I have that right? At least that's the case in Baby Squeaks, the follow-up to Where's Baby by Geisel Honoré and Hunter. A baby mouse says their first word and their second, and then many, many more in this hilarious, relatable parenting story about a baby who won't stop squeaking all day long. This is the perfect book for anyone with a chatty child or who is a chatty child themselves, one that deals in humor but honors the realities and needs of both parents and kids. And who doesn't love the sounds of the holiday season? Cash registers and squabbling relatives and Mariah Carey singles are all part of the holidays. And you'll not hear those in Joshua Awan's Strum and Drum, A Merry Little Quest. Instead, you'll hear the soulful sounds of musicians who just happen to be Christmas ornaments. A pair of Christmas tree ornaments set out on a merry adventure of a lifetime in this imaginative picture book and unique holiday tale, though I'm giving away the ending. When readers open the book, they only know the two little musicians set out to make the most joyous noise they can on a journey to the great star. But soon it becomes clear that the forest they trudge through is, in fact, a Christmas tree. This is a fun Christmas gift with a retro feel and two distinct art styles. That's lots of fun for young readers. And you can't have a merry little quest without some travel. So let's travel with Tundra on our last two picture books. On This Airplane by Lourdes Hoyer and Sarah Palacios is the perfect gift for any kid's first or 18th trip to the airport, or for any family moving to a new permanent home. A young family takes a plane to their new home. While on board, they encounter all the people you meet on a plane, a bookworm, a business person, tourists, crying babies and daydreamers, all with their own stories and all heading somewhere special. In an era when getting onto a plane has a good chance of ending in a shouting match, a surprise ukulele flash mob, or just a massive delay, this book, as SLJ notes, reveals a temporary community shot through with optimism and good cheer. This is a human and thoughtful portrait of air travel, perfect for any kids nervous about flying. Though an airplane has wings, it also has wheels, which would put it in the first category for Shannon McNeil's Wheels, No Wheels. In this book, adorable barnyard animals go for a joyride in this hilarious tale, perfect for the very strong readers. So I'm running overtime, so we're just going to cycle through this very silly book, which 7 Impossible Things Before Breakfast calls one of the funniest picture books you'll see this year. That's it for now. Thanks so much for listening. As I hinted throughout the presentation, almost all our picture books have activity sheets that you can download from free from our website. And we love hearing from readers, librarians, booksellers, almost everyone but creditors. So please get in touch with us at any time. Thanks again, and sorry for going over.
Thank you so much, Evan, for getting all of that in there. Everything looks great. And next up, we'll hear from Ellen Myrick. Ellen began Publisher Spotlight 15 years ago to promote and market independent and international children's book publishers. She recently co-chaired the IBBY Regional Conference in Nashville and has presented at ALA, ABA, and regional conferences. You can catch her on Kidlit TV with Rocco Stano for seasonal showcases featuring the highlights from 20+ publishers. Follow at Pub Spotlight on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Pinterest for more diverse, inclusive, and beautiful books from around the world for children and teens. Ellen, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Maggie. Thanks so much for having me here. And I'm here to show you books from 5 different publishers today. So I hope you enjoy these, and let's go to the next slide. So please contact me, Ellen, at publisherspotlight.com if you have questions, comments, anything about these books, and follow us at Pub Spotlight on all the social media platforms, and we would be glad to interact with you there. Next slide. We're going to start today with Gold. Yeah, it kind of seems to be a Goldilocks kind of day, doesn't it? So this is from Creston Books, which is a wonderful publisher over on the West Coast, run by Marissa Moss. And this is by Jed Alexander, who you may remember from Red. So a wordless picture book, and you think you know what's going to be happening here as this beautiful little girl is trotting home and the bears have left their home. So she goes in the door, next slide. And what is she going to find there? Well, she just makes herself right at home. And she starts preparing an interesting meal. Before you know it, she has fallen asleep and the bears have come home. And what have they found? Yes, it's a little girl asleep on the couch, but it turns out that she's part of the family and she's been adopted. Now, that did not go where you thought it was going to go, did it? This is a wonderful wordless book. And what I love to do with this kind of book is to get the kids to tell me the story. Like, oh, I'm so tired. I've been doing story time all day. You tell me this one, and then you see what happens. And these are the end papers. Aren't they fabulous? So let's move on to the next one. That is Gold. Yay, from Creston Books. A Dream for Every Season. This is by Hadi Nietzsche and Lisa Izato. And Arctis Books is a publisher based in Germany. Now, you may have seen All the Colors of Life, which came out from them last year and illustrated by Lisa Izato, which was an USBBY Best Outstanding International Book of the Year. And this is a journey through the seasons, and every page just makes you want to just revel in the glory, doesn't it? Just to nestle in and enjoy and laugh out loud and enjoy the beauty of every single one of these spreads. I want to call out the translators specifically because they did an excellent job. And they did what I love to see, which is they gave the translators credit on the front cover. So yay for that. We should have more of that going on. Now, doesn't this just evoke the current time of year for some of you, and for others, it's just around the bend. But again, this is A Dream for Every Season by Hadi Nietzsche, and the illustrations by Lisa Izato, who's won lots of awards. And those are the translators there. And just check this one out because it is absolutely stunning. And you'll want to look at all of Lisa Izato's work. By the way, she's based in Norway. Who would have thought? Moving on. So this is from Pajama Press, is a publisher based in Canada, in Toronto. And if you look closely at this cover illustration, or any of these illustrations, actually, good job there, you're going to notice that it is mixed media and collage. You can move on to the next slide. And this is a bedtime story, but it's a little bit different. Yes, as you're sleeping, lots of other things happen. But in this case, these are all little helpers who are doing things like fluffing the clouds and shining up all the stars. And if the art is just so exquisite, you can spend so much time just looking at that and maybe even emulating it. What a great library program that would be to take some of these kinds of ideas and go on your own with that. This is by Miko Sato, this art, and she is also the artist who did the Weather Days series from Pajama, windy days, sunny days, rainy days, snowy days. So you'll want to certainly check those out. And this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous book that you want to look at again and again. So as we're doing, next slide, as we're doing another tour, here we go, Cocoa Magic, Christmas. This does not say Christmas explicitly, but it's a story about a child and his father who is a chocolatier. Already a sweet start to this story. And at school one day, he notices that there's a little girl who is new and she seems very cold and lonely. So what does he do? Well, dad's a chocolatier. So he brings her a special gift of chocolate. And before you know it, gift giving is just the way it is in that school, and everybody is warm and empathetic and sharing things. And it has just created this wonderful environment. This is a beautiful story about sharing what you have and making people feel welcome. And the author, Sandra Bradley, is actually a clinical social worker. So she talks about the importance of empathy and how you can build that. Gabrielle Grimard, who did the art for this, also did Nutcracker Nights, which is very explicitly a Christmas story. And she did The Library Bus, which was a Rise Award winner about girls who find a bookmobile in Afghanistan, a true story. So you'll want to check those out as well. Thank you so much. And moving on to Lion Lights from Tilbury House, which is a publisher based in Maine. But this is a story that originated and is true based in Kenya, because, picture books are not just about fiction. They can be nonfiction as well. Now, this is a story about Richard, and Richard is his job in the Maasai village is to watch after the cattle. Now, the lions are attacking the cattle, which is not a good situation. So what he does is he notices as he's going out to the cattle at night that as he's swinging his flashlight back and forth, that the lions are staying away. And so he develops this idea to rig lights to the fences that are in continuous motion, and that keeps the lions away. Now there you see that. This is something that he patented. He is the youngest person to hold a patent in Kenya. and is just such an inspiring story about somebody who saw problems and found a solution, a child who is engaged in his community and changes things for all the creatures in his community, not just the people, but also the lion and the cattle. Great back matter, because Tilbury House is really good at back matter about the Maasai and about that village. And Richard Turere is an amazing, inspiring person, and you'll want to follow him on social media as well. The illustrations I should mention by Sonia Posentini. She's an award-winning illustrator, Italian, and her work is just stunning on this, especially the lions. Moving on to our next one, we have Little Hearts. This is from Red Comet Press, which is a publisher based in Brooklyn, and they do books from all over the world, but this one originated right here in the United States. So you're going to think, oh, a Valentine book, isn't that sweet? But yes, but no, because this is about finding hearts in nature. 4 friends go to 4 different environments, and everywhere they look, they see little hearts. So this is a story about noticing. It also is a very STEM-oriented book, because anybody can do this at any time, any place, anywhere. And it's just such a lovely celebration of friendship, but also about looking and paying attention to what is around you. I think the illustrations are fabulous. The words are written by Charles Guinia, who is also known as Father Goose. And if you haven't used Father Goose books for story times, you're missing out, because they're so much fun. And Jacqueline East, who is a fairly new illustrator. She's from Britain, and she did the gorgeous illustrations. So you'll certainly want to look for little hearts wherever you are. Next up, we have Albie on His Way. So this is by Yuta Bauer, and Yuta Bauer is one of my very favorite illustrators. She is, she's a winner of the Hans Christian Andersen Award. She won in 2010, and you're thinking, I don't know her work. Well, go check it out, because she is amazing. So here's Albie. He's a little messenger, and the king hears about how fast he is. So he gives him a special message to take to another kingdom, and Albie is on his way. He's going to do this. So he goes, but he's a little hampered because he's got a very, very warm heart. And he stops to help people along the way. And before you know it, he has helped everybody. He's had an injury himself. He's been nursed back to health. And finally, he makes it back home, only to find that he's back where he started from. Now look below, and you'll see there's 2 different stories happening here. We have Albie's story at the top, but below you have the king, who is waiting very patiently for this message to be delivered. So if you're doing this one in a story time, you can have the kids tell you what's going on in the bottom at the end of each spread, and have a very, very rambunctious story time. So here you see Albie, and he finally makes his way back, and he realizes, wow, this carpet looks familiar. And the king is there, and the king isn't angry. He actually just really wants to hear about the story. And as he hears about the story, what does he do? But he finds that very kind groundhog and invites her to come live with them too. So that is the story of Albie on His Way, which is just a spectacular. Oh, these are the end papers. Aren't they great? I love good end papers. If you like good end papers, you know, you're my people. So check it out. And lastly, we have Yellow Butterfly. So this is a wordless book. Yes, I have 2 wordless books, and this is by Alexander Shitokin. And he is a Ukrainian author illustrator, and he started this book on January 24th, 2022, which was the day of the invasion. And this is his response to the invasion of his country and the turmoil and violence that were visited upon his people and his community. And it is it's beautiful and heart-wrenching, and it's a way that you can have a conversation with kids about what war is and what war can do, but also find the hope in that. So as you're seeing these images, and this is just a few of them, this book is long and gorgeous and beautiful. Then finally you see the little hope. Well, a little bit further. Oh, there we go. Despair. There's the hope. Thank you, Yellow Butterfly. That comes, and the little girl gets to see the yellow butterfly, and then gradually she's able to catch on to that hope and let it pull her back up, and the hope spreads and spreads and spreads, and eventually you have it engulfing people. And what I love here is the use of the yellow, but then you introduce the sky blue of the Ukrainian flag. So by the end, you have this gorgeous, beautiful palette that reflects the images of the Ukrainian flag. Alexander Shitokin has done such an amazing job here. And at the end of the book, great back matter, you have sharing a wordless picture book, which is actually useful for any wordless picture book. You could even apply it to gold earlier on. And also how to have those really hard conversations about violence and terrorism and war. And this is something that I think we can all use these days, unfortunately, all the time. So Yellow Butterfly, a story from Ukraine, coming out in this country on the anniversary, the first anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine. So if you don't have that, it's not $2,199. It's actually $2,199. Sorry about that. Just seeing if you're paying attention. So this is based on his own experiences. And by the way, Alexander Shatokin also did The Happiest Lion Cub, which is a book that's been getting lovely reviews and is about a little lion cub who is coming into his own. So thank you very much for letting me share these books with you today. Please follow us for these and more books from around the world, and contact me at ellen@publisherspotlight.com if you have any comments, thoughts, observations, and follow at Pub Spotlight. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Ellen, for sharing all of that with us. Last but not least, we will hear from Adrienne Waintrub. Adrienne is the Executive Director of School and Library Marketing at Random House Children's Books, and she has over 2 decades of experience working in children's school and library marketing. Adrienne, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. To kick things off, I wanted to quickly share a slide featuring some of our picture books that published this past year. Thank you. We are really proud of these titles, and we hope that some of the covers are familiar to you. If they aren't, please be in touch to learn more. And then we'll get started. Next slide. Moving ahead to books publishing in December and further along in 2023, we have How We Say I Love You. How do you tell your family that you love them? For Hannah, love is all around her. Mom stirs love into her cooking, Dad cheers with love at her soccer game, and Hannah pours her love for Grandpa into a cup of his favorite sleepy time tea. This heartwarming picture book shares how one family expresses their love for one another through actions rather than words. Next slide. Growing up in a Blue Ridge Mountain town, little Roberta didn't have fancy or expensive toys, but she did have music. And she dreamed of one day having her own piano. This autobiographical picture book by multiple Grammy Award-winning singer Roberta Flack recounts her childhood in a home surrounded by music and love. It's co-written with award-winning author Tanya Bolden. This lyrical picture book offers readers an intimate look at Flack's family and her special connection to music. Next slide. Shining a light on a little-known historical figure, Ice Cream Man is the story of Augustus Jackson, who is known as the father of ice cream. At the age of 12, Augustus applied to work at the White House and got a job as a kitchen boy, going on to serve James Monroe, John Quincy Adams, and Andrew Jackson. It was there that he developed the delicious frozen treat we know today as ice cream. And afterward, with a list of sources and an easy-to-follow recipe, so readers can make their own delicious ice cream. Next slide. Sticking with the food theme, everyone loves lunchtime. Everyone, that is, but Zia. Zia is always nervous about opening her lunchbox. Her dumpling and noodle dishes look different than the other kids' lunches. When her parents begin to explain what the food represents, a roast pork bun to bring treasure, soy sauce chicken to bring success, Zia realizes that her food could bring her good fortune after all. And next slide. From avid and acclaimed wildlife illustrator Rebecca Lowell comes a soaring message of encouragement. Readers will find inspiration in a yellow warbler greeting a sunrise or a flock of Canada geese supporting each other by sharing the weight of the wind. This poetic and inspiring picture book is perfect for bird watchers or anyone seeking motivation. And afterward is included with factual information about the 10 birds featured in the book. And this is a vivid and poetic nonfiction picture book that chronicles the fascinating real-life phenomenon known as whale fall. When a whale dies, its massive body sinks to the silty sea floor. For the whale, this is the end of their journey, but for a little-known community of deep sea dwellers, it's a new beginning. Back matter gives more info about the underwater creatures mentioned throughout and the life cycles of whales, making this ideal for classroom use. And this one is exciting. Remember the sky you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon, who she was. Know who she was. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point of time. This picture book adaptation of U.S. Poet Laureate Joe Harjo's iconic poem Remember urges young readers to reflect on the wonder of the world around them and to remember the importance of their place in it. It's illustrated by Caldecott medalist Michaela Goad. Remember is a true celebration of life. We're really excited about that one. And then next, something totally different. Little Damon sees something he really wants to buy, but he doesn't have enough money. His mom points out that he does have talents and he can use them to solve problems. Best-selling author and Shark Tank star Damon John uses this fun story to ignite kids' early interest in how money works, including the concepts of saving, spending, budgeting, and borrowing, to develop a basic foundation of financial literacy that sets the children up for success in the future. Shark Tank fans will want to have this one on hand. And then our last book for this afternoon, oh no, little Cap is beside himself when he discovers his pet slug Gustav is missing. Now little Cap must summon the courage to leave his cozy home in order to find his best friend. After much perilous searching, up sheer cliffs and into deep canyons, and even stepping in something really, really gross, little Cap finally finds his very best friend, and he's changed for the better along the way. So that is it for Random House Children's Books. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out or follow us on any of our social media channels that are listed right there. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Adrienne. And thank you so much to all of today's wonderful presenters. These books look great. And thank you so much for sharing all of the art from them. It really makes it pop. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, title list, certificate of completion, and video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit www.booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones, like those you see here. Now you can share Booklist love with everyone connected to your school district, library system, or higher learning institution. Booklist Online Unlimited offers just that, unlimited simultaneous access to 30 years worth of review and article archives, plus digital editions of Booklist, book links, Booklist guides to graphic novels and libraries, and Booklist Reader. For pricing and other questions, visit www.booklistonline.com/subscribe. More good news, you can now deliver Booklist's unparalleled recommendations directly to patrons. Share Booklist Reader digitally and now in print. Learn more at bit.ly/booklistreaderprint or check out our website for more information about ordering your copies now. Thank you again for joining us for today's webinar, and one more huge thank you to our panelists and to our sponsors, Clavis Publishing, Charlesbridge Publishing, Tundra Book Group, Publisher Spotlight, and Random House Children's Books. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.